Another episode, another week. This today we're gonna talk about The Elder.
I heard of that.
That album. That album.
I heard of that album.
Either you love or you hate. I heard some fans that is their favorite Kiss record, and some others that they prefer to think it doesn't exist. You know.
And musically, I don't have too much to say about it. I don't think I ever listened to the whole album.
No.
No, I don't think so.
It's very un-Kiss.
Yeah, I know, and I know what it was supposed to be, and I know the approach they took, and I listened to a couple of cuts, and I said, yeah, they're doing what they set out to do.
What's your earliest recollection of The Elder as a concept?
Yeah, well, there's no specific memory of my first announcement to me about it. It's just like all the other ones happened, O'Coin or someone or Howard, my boss, would inform me that they have a new record coming out and they're going to make a concept album, I guess. Whether they called it that or not, I don't know, but that's what it was, And I started to get little bits of information about the story and a young boy and a bunch of legendary people who were called the Elder, and what the story was. I couldn't remember how it was proposed to me, but I got the drift. I got the idea, and I said, well, this is it's like
Lord of the Rings mixed with the Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. I said, isn't this? I probably even said that. Isn't this Lord of the Rings? I said, haven't I heard this before?
Right.
One way or another. I said, well, yes, I have. I have heard that before. Why are you doing it? Mm-hmm. It just seems like a cliche, or you're jumping on the bandwagon, maybe a little too late. And, come on, guys. I mean, this is not new ground. Let's face it. This is nothing new. Plus, it reminded me of Spinal Tap.
Stonehenge.
Stonehenge.
Yeah, it was kind of Spinal Tap. I think Spinal Tap came after that, but now that you mention it, yeah.
I was just going to ask you which came first. When I went to see Spinal Tap in the movies, I laughed so hard throughout that whole movie because so much of it was like my life with this band, Kiss. A lot of it. I mean, a lot of it. And it was almost like they had a spy in the Kiss office, and then they went and wrote Spinal Tap, except they made it English.
Well, a lot of what's on that movie is actually based on real events. For instance, that the Stonehenge Sins, that's based on a Black Sabbath happening, but it was the opposite. As opposed to a very small Stonehenge stage design, it was so big that the band couldn't fit on the stage. That was huge because they got it in feet as opposed to inches. I don't remember what was the mistake. They got the measuring wrong, and it was too big for the stage.
Yeah, inches and feet. He had the two lines. He said that means inches, not feet.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I love that movie, by the way.
I loved it. It was so funny. And remember that interview where they were talking about their drummer? The first drummer died.
Yeah, he died of.
And then the next drummer died, and all their drummers were.
And one of them died of spontaneous human combustion.
Yeah. Yes. But he died because he choked on vomit.
But it was someone else's vomit.
So yeah,
some other died of a very bizarre gardening accident.
It was hilarious. It was real genius stuff.
No, those guys are, and like 90% of that movie, it's improvised. They had
the actors were like a lot of them were from improv. Michael McKean, he started with an improv company, I believe. Maybe Second City, I think. Not sure. Mm-hmm. And the other guys, they were brilliant.
No, it's a very
Christopher Guest is brilliant. You know, all of his movies are funny.
yeah. Those are funny guys. It's a great movie. So I heard. I mean,
Went down again, but I'm just saying.
a lot of people know that they were very ambitious with this project, and they were hoping that eventually it would become a movie, you know.
Well, yeah.
So they had
What's,
huh?
what's the title of the album?
Right, so they had a script. Did you ever see that script, or you were given just an outline
No.
story?
I've been asked why. You know, it's the first album, Kiss album, without their faces on it, without their picture.
Yeah, I mean that was one of my questions actually. Was there ever a consideration to have the image on the band in the jacket?
No, because it's a soundtrack album. Music from the Elder. That's the title of the album.
Mhm.
So it's like a soundtrack. So I was just trying to do a narrative image of the story, a part of the story of the Elder, like the inside, the gatefold, and the door on the cover, sort of hints about a narrative hint
Right.
about a little bit of the story.
So
I didn't think they belonged on it. They were not in the story.
mhm.
Kiss was not in the story. It was about a young boy and the Elder and Mr. Blackwell and all of these things. But
I'm sure I'm sure it must have been very frustrating for Eric Carr, especially because it was his first Kiss album, and his photo and was nowhere to be found in the jacket. And you would think that they would want to introduce him in a big way.
not on that one, I guess.
Yeah. So was the word medieval anywhere in the briefing? Like, because it's obviously medieval, but did they tell you?
I don't remember saying that. Yeah, obviously medieval. That's the little bit of the tone I tried to capture.
So
I remember thinking when I was, I don't know what made me think of doing a door.
so it was your idea. The door was your idea. Okay.
Yes. This is completely mine. I mean, I shopped for the props. I had props built.
Yeah, but let's go step by step. So what was the first approach? You thought of a door, and I heard you had a concept prior.
Because I wanted it to be narrative
Mhm.
and evocative, and maybe take a little moment from the story, you know, a critical moment from the story, and like a snapshot, and put it on the cover. So I thought it would be cool to have a young boy
Mhm.
In front of this imposing door, which obviously on the other side he was going to the home of the Elder, or the lair of the Elder, or whatever you want to call it, where the Elder reside. And he didn't know what was on the other side of the door. He was approaching it with trepidation, excitement, and fear, and all of that in one picture. So I thought we'd have a little boy. He's going to knock. You know, it's a medieval door. I was hoping that I would lived in Hollywood so that I could find some props from horror movies, you know, that probably still exist out there. But we're in New York, so we don't have prop houses like that here. So, you know, I had to work from scratch, you know. So I did a layout of a young boy, and he's in front of the door, but he's looking over his shoulder. So this is the door, and he's looking back like, oh, what am I getting into? I'm gonna knock, but I don't know what's gonna happen after I make that knock. This is where the adventure begins, right now at this very, very moment. So I was trying to capture that.
Where did you get the images for that layout?
I looked through. I didn't want to draw it because I didn't think it would be convincing. I thought about hiring a sketch artist, but then I thought it would look like a crappy magic marker sketch. It wouldn't have the mood, you know. It's hard to sell an idea sometimes if
Oh,
it's not if it's not brought almost to conclusion.
boy, do I have to deal with that in my work every day.
Yeah, you can't say now imagine this and now you can just see this in a spooky lighting or something. They can't imagine it. You have to show.
You know what? I have to deal with that very often in my work, in what I do. I have some clients that have enough imagination to extrapolate what they know of my style because they have seen what I do in previous work. And if I present just a simple pencil sketch, I can see it finished because I know your style. But
Yeah, if you show them all your other work, prop it up and say, like this and like that, and here, you could get somewhere. That's true.
But some other clients, they just can't. You have to present something that maybe it's not as refined as the final work, but it has to look like the final version, even if it's sketched out.
Yeah.
So it's
hard because you got to pay somebody and whatever,
right.
And from an art director standpoint. So what I did was I was looking for an image that I could steal for the layout.
Mhm.
Would never go further than the layout. It was just a show. So it wasn't exactly plagiarizing or stealing somebody's work. I didn't think. It was just like like this. So I went through the illustrators annuals, the award-winning illustrations of that year. The annual came out every year. The Illustrators Society, they put out a hardcover book every year.
Mm-hmm.
So I found this picture of a young boy doing that exact thing. And what came first? Me thinking of a guy doing? No, I think I probably saw the picture and said that would fit perfectly to amplify my idea. So I saw this picture of a little boy doing that. It was some other background. It was like a circus background of some kind, circus wagon. The illustrator was a woman named Rowena Morrill. And Rowena Morrill, if you look her up, you'll see she's a great illustrator. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. I don't think she's around anymore, but back then she was doing great work. I tried to hire her for another job. I think it was Crazy Nights, but that's another story. But so I made a photostat of the young boy and I silhouetted him. I took the background away and I put him in front of this door that I also found with stock photos or something, a medieval looking door. And I just stuck him in front of the door and it worked. The image worked. The little kid doing this, the door. It had a good feeling. It had a nice mysterious quality.
Is that the one you sent me?
Yeah.
Is that your actual layout, the one that you sent me today?
There were 2 or 3. They all had the same boy, but I changed the door a couple of times. But none of them were like the door we ultimately used. I was just looking for castle doors, medieval doors, things like that. And so
you had a mysterious quality.
It had a mysterious quality. It had the narrative aspect that I wanted to achieve, the question marks, what's going to happen here, I thought it was just right for this project. But they didn't want to have another human being on their cover. That wasn't them. They weren't saying put us on. They were just saying, who's this kid? Well, what is the no. They just no. I said, okay.
That's very interesting of you to point that out because none of the Kiss album covers have other characters. Maybe the only one would be Psycho Circus that has a clown face. But that's it. That's the only one that has a character other than Kiss.
Right, but it also has Kiss. Psycho Circus has Kiss also.
Yeah, he has little pictures of them.
Like they were eliminated.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought this project was so different from everything else that we could do that. We could do pretty much anything. We didn't have to adhere to those rules, putting Kiss on or anything. They didn't fit. They didn't belong on the cover, really. Didn't belong. It was the soundtrack for a movie. That they were the musicians.
Gotcha.
So you don't show the musicians on soundtrack albums.
No.
He showed the movie star, right?
Yeah.
Or a scene from the movie.
Or the poster of the movie on the cover.
Poster of the movie, right? And which would contain some scene or a narrative of the movie, usually including the movie stars.
Right.
So I was doing that. And they didn't see it my way. So I guess Paul said, why not just a hand in the knocker? I said, fine. I didn't want to argue. Too tired to argue.
So the next step would be finding the door. What did you do
right.
this door?
Exactly. So I didn't know if I was going to build a door or if I was just going to find a door somewhere, photograph it well, and then with retouching and what have you, put together some image, a hand and a knocker and what have you like that. And you know, I didn't have the luxury of days and days and days and weeks to do these things. You have to move. Plus, I can't be out of the office for that amount of time. I have a lot of other work to do. There's only two of us in the art department, you know, and sometimes we're very, very busy. So I couldn't, as much as I love to get away from my drawing table and travel around the city, you know, I also knew that the more I do this, the later tonight I'm going to be in front of that drawing table, late nights and weekends, you know. So I had to be efficient. I had to move fast. So I took the Polaroid camera, the office Polaroid camera, and I went around looking at church doors because I figured they were my best bet to get something looking kind of medieval. I shot some doors. Then I saw this one. And there were others that had better aspects, but this one, I liked some things about it. So I figured I'll shoot this door. It's not perfect. I know I can't use it as it is. So what I'll do is I'll use it for reference, and I'll have it built.
Was that the one of that Park Avenue Cathedral?
Yes, not a cathedral, just a church. It's a Methodist church, I think.
Okay.
And it's not far from where I live. So I was walking around the neighborhood. I said, let me look at that church. And I looked, I said, oh, yeah. These doors have those great bolts on them, you know, and I kind of like that look. I didn't like the color of the wood. Well, the color of the wood has changed. They refinished the doors a couple of times. But it used to be more of a reddish brown. So I took the pictures. Then I brought it down to a model maker in New York. And it's a Manhattan Model Shop, I think, down on Great Jones Street, all the way downtown.
The name of the guy was Bill Finneran.
Oh, Finneran.
Okay.
And so I met Bill, and I said, I'm doing an album cover. I need a medieval door. For some reason, I didn't have him build a knocker right away. I think Bernard Vidal got wind of this project, and he said, oh, I know a guy who can build things. He'll do a knocker for you. I said, okay, great. And then we'll put it on the door that this guy's building. Fine. So I built the door, and it was really very nice. There were two things that were not good about it. I didn't like the color of the wood, and it was also too new looking.
Right.
Also, the hinges that he put on it, I don't know. I should have talked to him in a little bit more detail, so I take responsibility at that point. The hinges were only about this big. They were kind of nicely done, beautifully done, but they didn't have that, scary, medieval, imposing feeling that I needed. Everything had to be Gothic, you know.
Right, with a pointy design.
Yeah, a little bit bigger and a little scarier, you know.
Right.
So, Paul saw that. Paul came in to look at the door, the model of the door. He said, I don't know about the hinges. I said, yeah, you're right. I was thinking the same thing, but I wanted to show it to you. So I said, I'll get the hinges done over again. So I sent the door back down to Bill. I said, you have to distress the door. So he laughed. Yeah, I said,
Like it's weathered and it's hundreds of years old.
yeah, and that's the term they use,
Mm-hmm.
distress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I said, and change the color. The color was too blonde or something. I said, no, darker, a little darker. Deepen it, distress it. And I said, I need some hinges that have. So I think I had to go down there. As a matter of fact, I do recall going down. And maybe I brought the door in a cab. I must have, because I went down. I remember we were looking through a big reference
And
book he had.
And it wasn't a full door. How big was this?
It was it was full scale, but half size.
Half size. So 5x5, 4x4.
Yeah, you know, it was the width of a door, but only about half the height.
Gotcha.
So I go down there. We're looking through a reference manual that he has. I guess model makers, you know, they have to have a lot of stuff, you know, reference, and they have to know about a lot of things and be accurate. And he had this book that was like that thick, and it was quite large. And we're looking through, and I'm looking at hinges, hinges upon hinges upon hinges. And we finally found these hinges that went like that. And, you know, they went to a point and they were wide. I said, those are the guys right there. They're great. And he made them out of plexiglass, you know?
Yeah.
And then he painted them. And they look wonderful.
And I think the wood was pine wood, not oak. That's why they look
soft. So when he sandblasted it, it would eat into the grain.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the high parts of the grain are harder.
Mm.
And in between the grain, it's softer. So when you sandblast it, it goes in, but some places stay high and some places go low.
Uh-huh.
It's very realistic looking.
Very cool.
And soft, so good for sandblasting, good for distressing.
Mm-hmm.
I think he probably hit it with a chain too, you know. Put you know, that's what they do. They hit it with chains, yeah.
I read an interview with him, and their specialty was commercials. And I think he said that this was the one album cover they did. They never did album covers before or after that.
I keep wanting to take a cab down to Grace Jones Street and say hello to Bill. I haven't seen him in, you know, all these years, 40 years, you know.
He said that the door was built maybe by him and his wife. And,
okay.
So he said that the usual type of work they did was just oversized toothpaste tubes for commercials. Yeah. And
when I was down there, I saw Crayola crayons.
Oversized?
4 feet high. They were just leaning against the wall. It was kind of cool place to visit, you know.
Big aspirants for commercials too. That was their main thing. That's what they did.
Yeah. It was Bill was a nice guy. The whole experience was very good working with him.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So Bernard delivered this knocker, and what his friend did was he took a rubber hose that was about this much around, pretty fat, and he made a circle out of it and connected it. And then he had a plastic rose that he got at, you know, the 5 and dime store, and stuck it on, and then he sprayed everything gold. And it looked pretty bad.
I can imagine. I'm trying to picture it.
And Paul saw that, and he said, no. No. I said, yeah, I know. I said, I was hoping, Paul, that it would look better in photography, because a lot of things look terrible in person, but you photograph them and light them, and you can't believe how good it looks, you know. I said, well, why take a chance? Let's have another one made. So I went back to Bill, and I said, I need a knocker, and he made that knocker that's on the cover.
And just to be clear, the concept of the rose was there from the beginning, because he had to tie it up to the order of the rose, the under the rose.
Under the rose, sub rosa.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Bill manufactured this knocker, and I think it was also done some kind of resin. It wasn't bronze at all. It was done from some kind of resin, and but really professionally done. and the rose was sculpted too.
Yeah, it looked nice. It looked nice. And so Paul came down to the photo studio, and that's his hand. And I think we did try somebody else's hand, but this is lost in the murky corners of my mind. But I think I tried to use a younger person's hand. But I have very little, or I have no memory of that. But I'm pretty sure I didn't do Paul first. So, but then Paul said, well, he said, quote, I have nice hands, unquote. So I said, okay.
So you had a previous photo shoot with somebody else's hand, and Paul?
I think so, but like I say, my memory is very murky of that. Yeah,
very interesting to see.
I never saw an outtake of it, so I'm wondering if my memory is correct, or maybe we were just talking about let's get a kid and do his hand, and then Paul said, "Well, I have nice hands." So he jumped in before I had a chance, maybe, to do the other.
And this photo shoot was with David Spindle, correct?
That's right. David was my go-to guy for anything what we call tabletop photography or still life. He was product, tabletop. He was excellent at that. And he was also very good at setting moods with lighting and stuff. David was great at lighting, so I never thought of anybody but David. I have been using David for many years before KISS came along,
So you used him for previous job for KISS?
No, but I used him for a lot of previous stuff before KISS.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So David and I had a long relationship.
Yeah. So he did the door and the table that is on the gatefold?
Yep.
Okay. So tell me about the photo shoot of the door. Paul was there.
So I had this idea, if it's a gatefold album, to when you open it, well, what should be on the inside? How are we gonna design the inside? And like a lot of things now, it seems obvious, but it wasn't obvious. I said, well, he's at the door. He knocks on the door. The door swings open, and now he's staring at this room. And it's an imposing room, and it's obviously the meeting room for the elder where they have their spooky medieval meetings. And so I said, well, I have to create this room, so what do I need? I need chairs where the elder will sit. I need a table. What else? I said, oh, I guess a candle. They'd probably have a candle, So
So you did a lot of You did a lot of walking for this album cover.
A lot of walking.
A lot of walking, trying to find out all these props for the.
Yeah, I used the telephone book. I looked up, prop houses and stuff. I kind of knew about this one place called Newell Art Galleries. Newell, Newell, East 53rd Street, I think. And I think they're still there. And I went there, and they had all this great decorative vintage stuff, a lot of stuff. So I found the chairs there. And they had 6 of these chairs, six chairs, and then one sort of special one that was a little more decorative. I put that at the end. That would be the head elder guy, the head kook. So I got the chairs there. They didn't have a table that I could use. So David found me a big slab of wood, which we used as a tabletop. It wasn't actually a table. We just propped it up on some wooden horses, So it's just a slab of wood about, real thick, nice and old. And so it worked well with the chairs. Then in third place, I'm calling around. I said, I need a ornate tabletop candelabra, candle holder for a wide candle, not a skinny, not a taper, but a fat candle. And the guy said, I have something you might like. So I went down there and I looked at it and I said, okay. And I rented it. Well, I rented it. All of the stuff was all rented. We didn't buy anything. And I rented that has sort of a spiral looking design to it. And we got a candle and we burned it a little bit. We put it in there. And there was our set. You could see beyond the table and the chairs. I said, well, I could just have it go to black, I guess. But I said, Dave, I should have a brown feeling, an amber brown quality. So he hung up some medium colored brown no seam paper. And then by lighting, much of that went very dark. But he had some lights on the floor someplace that lit, and so some of it turned amber, like an amber glow, but then it faded into dark. Anyway, it worked out great. It looked very, very nice. We lit the candle. The only thing you really retouched on that picture is the flame of the candle.
Did you do that? Did you retouch it? Yeah.
No.
Oh. Okay.
I call, hello, retoucher. I got a job for you. So they came in and I said, look, the flame of the candle is wobbly and weird. And if you look at the picture, which I'm not looking at now, but we made the flame go more or less straight up, and it lines up. And of course, I did this with David too in the viewfinder of the camera, but it lines up with that chair at the end.
Okay.
Right in the middle of the decoration. So it's like symmetrical.
Mm-hmm.
Because it would have looked odd otherwise. The flame off center, the chair over here has that symmetrical design on the back of the chair. And you would almost want it to line up. Oh, why is that off like that? So I made it line up. It looks better.
Mm-hmm.
So that was our interior.
Paul wasn't at that photo shoot, right? It was just you and David?
Well, the cover, Paul came for the cover.
Mm-hmm.
But for the interior, yeah, just the two of us.
Who wrote the text about the elders inside the gatefold?
That's probably the only information I had about what the album was going to be.
So that was the original. So that was the original information you got. This text that is in the. Ah, I see. Okay.
I probably had that written, or mostly, and I read it, and I said, okay, I thought it was. I thought the whole idea was horrible, and corny, and I also thought that it was, couldn't you think of something else to do? Because this shit has been done by other people by now, and it just doesn't feel right. Not that it's not a Kiss album. That didn't bother me. You could do a concept album that's not a Kiss album if you want to, but this particular genre, I thought was I just groaned. I said, "Oh my God, really?" And it's just like you're trying to when you couch your concept in this sort of spooky, secretive, medieval. It's a fake way of making it feel important.
Yeah.
It's like fake importance. We're going to elevate it and make it. Ooh, this is really spiritual. Oh, this is heavy.
Well, to me.
Not to me.
To me, the concept failed in two very important aspects in terms of the concept. One is it wasn't original, but it was presented as something kind of very, very original and
Let me say this word before I forget it.
And clever.
Pretentious.
Pretentious, right. But also it was very cryptic. You cannot, by reading the lyrics, you cannot figure it out the story. It's very cryptic, not very, what's the word? Explicit.
Descriptive or clear.
Or clear, exactly. So in order to, one thing is, to me, is like cryptism, a cryptical narrative, and mysterious doesn't equal quality. It just makes it confusing. You know what I mean?
And it's a fake way of making it feel important and heavy.
Yeah.
All fake and pretentious.
Yeah.
I thought it was bullshit. I really did. And I told everybody that. But
so what did everybody at the office thought of it? What did Howard thought of it before listening and seeing the other.
Howard hated it.
Sorry?
Howard hated it. He said, make a Kiss album. That's what I remember what he said in the office. Make a Kiss album, but
Eric was not happy. Eric and Ace were not happy about it either.
I know. He recorded his parts at home, sent them in, you know.
And Ace hated it. It's just.
Ace recorded his guitar stuff in his home studio
In Connecticut, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they recorded a lot of it in Ace's studio, which was kind of a basement, kind of a bunker type of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So let's talk about the photo shoots, because I know you were there. And you used, I think, 2 photographers, Warren Abbott and Barry Levine, right? For the photo shoots of the Elder. So there's one.
There were different ones, but.
So tell me first about the white one, the one with the panels.
Right. I didn't go to that shoot. That's one of the only shoots of the band that is when they were shot in New York that I did not attend. It's the only one. I was too busy. I couldn't do it. I couldn't leave the office. So, so I trusted everybody. Bill came in and he said, you know, we need photos. What should we do? I mean, nobody had any ideas. So, I mean, I was flattered, I guess, in a way, that they would lean on me for ideas. This photographer and Bill, who was supposed to be all creative and everything, but nobody had any ideas. And Dennis, you know, what are we going to do? I need an idea. Yeah, really, this is what he was saying. I said, you know, I've always in the back of my mind wanted to put Kiss in a white set. Very severe. Just angles and lighting. Dark, light, light, dark, medium. You know, and with the lights, the white will go gray, or it'll be more white or less white, depending on where the lights are. I want to see an angle. I want to see a straight line. I want to see a little horizon. I want to see this, that, the other thing. So then he sent Barry to see me. And I got shit on my drawing table. There's nothing to do with Kiss. And Barry came in. I had no time to do this properly. But I said, Barry, here's my idea. And I had a piece of paper, and right in front of him, I just started going like this. I said, it's a white set. It's a white floor. There's nothing in this picture that's not white. It's all white. The background, the ceiling, if you see the ceiling, is going to be white. I said, get flats, build some flats, make one a 45-degree angle, make everything movable so that you could change the set, so that it's not static all day long. So you shoot something like this, then you can move the flats around and have the angles be in different places or closer or farther from the camera. I said, I want one like this. I want a big square looking thing. I want a long horizontal thing. Move them. And the guys could be half behind, in front, some behind, move it around, flat, guy. I said, you have unlimited possibilities with that.
So I thought it was Warren Abbott. That was Barry.
Sorry?
That was Barry.
Yeah. So I don't know if I read this right, but I think I read Barry hated that photo shoot. But I'm not sure if I read that right. I don't know, but then he delivers the job. Now I like those photos that I've seen. I do like them. Just about what I had in mind. One guy far away, he's small. Another guy's in front, he's big, and you could change it, And it was different, and I wanted it to be different than anything we've done before. That was always my goal, is to keep changing it up, keep it interesting, and it worked. It worked in that aspect, and it looked modern to me. And of course, her costumes were sort of stripped down. Gene had that different kind of hair with the sort of ponytail wrapped up in the back, and Paul had shorter hair and different kind of boots and stuff, and everybody looked different, kind of a little more modern. And it was the 80s, so things changed from the 70s, right? things changed. Visually, things changed.
Um,
Barry worked the photos in, and there's not many of them. I'm expecting to see box after box of photos. He doesn't have a lot of photos. And I said, why so few photos? He said, I had the wrong film in the camera for most of the shoot.
he had to what?
He told me he had the wrong film in the camera.
Oh, shit. And he realized like halfway through that he had the wrong film.
Maybe, I don't know when he realized it.
Holy shit. So, you know what is mind-boggling to me? That this was supposed to be Paul and Jean's super concept of they wanted to do a movie about it. They had a script.
Well, they had high ideas, yeah.
And they didn't give you any visual directions for the cover or the photo shoot. The first time I saw this photo shoot, the white one, it's a very nice one in terms of creativity, as you said, but it has nothing to do with the other. So
No, it doesn't.
That always when I was a teenager, I remember having pictures of this photo shoot in a magazine, and I was expecting to see them on a castle or riding horses in the middle of the English countryside. I said, why aren't the photo shoot? They both of the photo shoot looked futuristic and minimalistic to me. They didn't have anything to do with medieval themes or castles or the elder or what. So, not saying that the photo shoots are bad. They're great in terms of quality and creativity, but conceptually it has nothing to do with the record.
It was never even considered to make it look like. Never considered, never talked about.
That is crazy to me.
It's just 1980, let's do some pictures. Now we're calling it, why are we calling it the Elder Shoot anyway? Because it was done around the same time. But we never said we're having an elder photo shoot. That word never came up in terms of the photo shoot. Elder? No. I did the album cover, that's done. Now this is a photo shoot. A photo shoot.
I see.
That's all it is. And it was a photo shoot for 1980,
So there was a second photo shoot with Barry with those neons.
Yeah.
That was just a promotional photo shoot, and that was it. Did you propose that for the cover of Killers?
Good question. I think probably they were shots that were not widely seen. We had done them. They were nice. Mm-hmm. And we needed something to put on the Kiss Killers. And so we used the latest, greatest photos that we had. That was simple as that. What are we going to put on the Kiss Killers? Well, we just had a photo session. Mm-hmm. Let's go through those and see what we can find. That was a good photo shoot. Pretty good. Mm-hmm. That was Laurie was there, Laurie Greenan. She was the wardrobe manager, helping them fixing with their costume. A couple of the guys, they had no costumes. Mm-hmm. Two guys, Gene and maybe Paul or maybe Ace, two guys had costumes that looked sort of finished. And the other two guys were just wearing black, stretchy spandex with maybe a belt and a couple of rhinestones. They didn't have any costume, really. It's like very, very minimal. Yeah. And so Barry, I remember at one point, Barry was posing the four guys, and they had the two fancy guys right next to each other, and the two plain guys on the other side. It looked terrible. So, not to when I gave photographers direction in the middle of a photo shoot, I don't want to. You have to be diplomatic. You don't want to start yelling things out. Hey, let's do this. I don't think that's a good idea. So, because it seems like you're taking over. So I would always be diplomatic. And I went over to Barry. He was behind the camera, and I said in his ear very quietly, I said, get the two fancy guys away from each other. And I stepped back. And he went, oh. And he went up there and he rearranged them. And Gene heard me. He didn't say anything. So then they were doing another setup. And I was preoccupied. I might have been on the phone talking to the office or something. I don't know what. And Lori came over and she said, Gene wants you back on this set. He values your direction. Something like that. What's your opinion?
Was that the one with the?
Get those two fancy guys away. It's like I was the only guy with two eyes.
Was that the one with the purple neons? That photo shoot?
It was that photo shoot, but that was not that photograph, I don't think, because we had different setups. It was a pretty big place, so we had them over here, then we moved them over there, and they had those, that looking thing. Mm-hmm. There's a picture of me with the band. That's one of my favorite pictures with the band because I only have a few with the whole band. Mm-hmm. I only have one with the original four. That's the Straight Jackets. Mm-hmm. Then I have another one with Eric. That was Creatures of the Night. I have one with that from that shoot.
Before the album was released, there was a listening party. I think it was at Bill O'Coin's office or Howard Marks' offices, where they had everybody on a room to listen to the record. Were you there?
I may have ducked out of that meeting.
And I think everybody was in shock.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I hate those listening things. I hate them.
Because you have to sit down and listen to the whole thing.
You like it. You got to make believe you like it.
So wait. So
I go like this.
So they make you.
This is great.
So wait. Did you go to previous listening parties for Kiss records and have to pretend you like them?
Party for Saturday Night Fever.
Oh.
The Bee Gees and John Travolta. Staying alive. Ha, 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 ha. Staying alive. Was that one of the biggest records of all time?
Yeah, it was certainly that year the biggest record.
Oh, they still play it.
So were they there? The Bee Gees at that party?
No, but the head of RSO Records came in. The hell was his name? He's a big deal guy. Mm-hmm. And he came in and he played it for us in our conference room. Howard invested thousands into the best audio equipment. And so everybody was around the big table, the whole staff, our whole office staff. And we had to make believe we liked it,
Oh, come on, it's a great record. I love that record.
It's a lot of times records aren't great on the first listening. You gotta let them sink in.
Right.
I don't know what to make of it. I just listened to it and smiled, but it's a great record now.
No, it is. I love it. I have a copy right there.
The listening thing I did was, what was the first? Maybe it was Asylum. When did Asylum come out? 84, 85?
85.
So it probably was Asylum, and that was the first record that Bruce played on or was on the cover of, right?
Yes.
So they had a listening party for that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I went to that, and I had to make believe I liked it.
All right.
I'm not a Kiss fan, that's for sure. But
sorry? What did you say?
I'm not a typical Kiss fan, I said.
No, I figured.
The first album, I couldn't stop playing it.
Really? You like it?
I loved it. I loved it.
Record. Had good songs.
Gutter, Deuce, Nothing to Lose, Firehouse. I don't know. The rock and roll. It was real rock and roll.
Mm-hmm. It's a good record.
Yeah.
Stand the test of time. I do prefer the live version.
Huh? I used to bring the record to parties with me. Say, here, play this. I really loved it.
So, The Elder comes out. Total failure from every standpoint. It didn't get appreciated by critics or appreciated by Kiss fans or appreciated by general audiences. So what was the mood in Howard Marks's offices after this?
Yeah, I guess they thought it was the death knell of the band. But I don't know, things get quiet. Things get quiet. I don't know. I can't think of anything specific that was said. It's just,
The tour was canceled. That it was that bad.
Yeah.
And they weren't selling venues. The album wasn't selling. They didn't do video. Well, they did one video for it.
I don't know.
Okay, so I think that sums it up. I don't think we left anything on the table.
I can't think of any more details to give you.
No, that was great. That was enough. It was great. Thank
about
you.
the model, talked about making, talked about this.
No, this was great. Thank you, Dennis. I think we found out everything what we didn't think we need to know about the elder.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll see you the next one is going to be Creatures of the Night.
Okay, creatures. So we have some things to talk about.
Yeah, I know you have pretty interesting stories about that one, especially about the cover. So see you next week.
Bye, Claudio.
Or the week after that.
Whatever. Yeah, okay.
Bye, Dennis.